Hey, well, aloha and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me in today's live stream. My name is Paul Fletcher, and this is The Healing Source. Well, it's been a few weeks. I did take off last week. Some of you might have missed me, and we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to delve into different aspects of the nature of spirituality, and today we're going to be focusing on uh, how to comprehend, how to work with the physical events that happen in our life, the external worldwide events, how to see them through the lens of spirituality. This, the verbiage that I use to promote this and to talk about it today was received in flow. And I paused and I said, okay, Heaven, what do you want me to talk about today? What is key and important for people? And one of the things that I have realized as a master teacher and healer, running my own business, the Wellspring of Light, and having many clients and students, I do a membership program that includes half-hour consults every month. And in those consultations of sufferings that people are going through, often what I see when I'm chatting with the various people to assist them to move through and past whatever physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual roadblocks they are dealing with, is I see that they are not working with spirituality and their life in a harmonious way. They are keeping them separate. And what I mean by that is they can have a physical world issue like the job. Maybe the boss or the supervisor is not being kind or is threatening their career path, etc. And they do not see this spiritual approach to how that can resolve the physical world problem. And this is just one example. We tend to segregate in our mind spirituality and or our belief systems from the everyday life that we walk and live in. And this is a relatively large mistake. The reason it's such a big mistake is because, as has been said many times before, we are a soul having a physical experience. We are incarnate in this physical body, but the purpose of life is to serve, and the purpose of that service is to elevate our soul standing. The purpose of elevating our soul standing is to position us to be more in alignment with our original source nature, which of course is the purity of love and light. And in that progression from waking up to realizing that we are spiritual beings to becoming a fully enlightened being, there's this gap in there that a lot of us are learning to bridge. And that gap includes living your physical, emotional, mental life from a spiritual, I shouldn't say from a spiritual perspective, with and ingrained within it needs to be a spiritual consciousness. If that is ingrained within every thought, every word, and every action you do, then you'll discover that there is no separation. For example, I just gave you an example of the person who might be having issues with his boss. So this person, if they had integrated spiritual consciousness into their work environment, would have, prior to this event ever having, where he has issues with his boss, he would wake up every day, and in the process of waking up, connect to the source, connect to their soul, connect to their heavens teams, ask for guidance for that day, and then they would do a forgiveness practice with all those whom they are to communicate with on that day. And so they could, for example, they're the soul of my coworkers, my boss, all those whom I work with at ABC Corporation. I love you. Please come to this soul communication. I deeply apologize if I've ever harmed any of you in any way, miscommunicated with you, not offered love and light in all my communications. If Dear my boss, if I've ever kept you from being employed or elevated in your employment, put somebody else in that spot instead of you where you actually deserved it, and please forgive me. Now, this is an example of implementing spirituality in the normal part of life, and it's almost like what my teacher Master Sha shares is the best medicine is the medicine where you bring yourself healing before you ever get sick, right? And this is not something he invented. You've all heard versions of that before. So in the case of the alignment of your spirituality intermixed with your physical, emotional, mental life, it needs to be a natural blending versus a separation, which, as I shared, is what a lot of people have. And in that natural blending, you are working with soul communication. You are working with forgiveness as a natural part of your waking day by being preemptive and doing soul communication with all those whom you will meet today in this example, by being preemptive and doing forgiveness practice with your coworkers and your boss. The chance of him not elevating you to a position is dramatically enhanced, and the chance of him having arguments with you or not promoting you is dramatically minimized because you have integrated various simple spiritual practices in a natural part of your life. So this is just a very simple example of the necessity to find a way where we can naturally integrate our spirituality, which can be anything for you. Spirituality could be your specific belief system that could have a name of Judaism or Christianity or Buddhism or whatever it is. That would be your spirituality. Okay? So you want to learn how to integrate that. Now, specifically, when I received the message today on this subject matter to talk about this in such a way to bring value to you, what I heard in my spiritual channels was that we go through life and we are bombarded, just bombarded, and that's a really accurate word, by life events and problematic conditions, struggle from every direction you can imagine, and you probably don't have to imagine because you're probably living it. And that's just with our life, right? That's the relationship side, the financial side, the job possibility side, the health side. That's our stuff, right? And then we have everything outside of us that's bombarding us. And that includes all of the apps that are constantly dinging on your phone. That includes the television. That includes the negative news from every possible direction. The negative news is not just the ABCs and the MSNBCs and the CNNs and all those guys. The negative news has very well infiltrated anything on the internet as well. It is everywhere. And this external form of information from the world at large can negatively impact us significantly. And I'm going to share with you today some insights about how you can filter this information through the lens of spirituality, your spirituality, not mine. But I'm going to share with you some higher consciousness perceptions that might not be directly explained in your particular belief system, but it would still apply nevertheless, because ultimately all of the belief systems that include one God would include this consciousness that I'll be sharing with you. So the first thing that we want to realize is that we are and have never been, we are one with God, and we have never been separate from God. So God is within us, we are within God, we are all one. And guess what? That neighbor right next to you, that person right next to you, that boss right next to you that you don't like too much, they are also, God is within them, and they are one with God. So as much as we like to believe we are separate from each other and from everything, it's obviously a fallacy. Now, it's cute words, and it's not that we don't grasp it. All of you understood it. You've heard it before. You're like, yeah, I agree. And yet, in the acting out, we recognize that we don't always act with that truth. We often act in self-preservation. So how then do we deal with things? We're going to start with the external world events. How do we deal with external world events and things that enter our periphery that can impact us? How do we deal with that through the lens of spirituality? First and foremost, it is important to recognize that whatever you think about magnifies. So you have to be extremely, extremely conscientious about what you allow from the external environment into your world. Now, in my limited spare time, I like to keep my radar ear, if you will, on the alt news, on everything that is alternative. And I've learned to look at the opposite. If somebody says there's a war over here, what immediately I do is I say, okay, thank you. What's really going on? I'll always say, what does this really mean? I'll look to almost the opposite side of it to discern what I would perceive to be the truth. Now, ultimately, just opening that app, just reading that negative news about the war here, the war there, and then either I can just accept it for face value, oh my God, people dying, war over here, and I can go into the emotional association with that, which is not going to help my vibration. Or I can go into, yeah, but what's really happening, and I can have all kinds of mental, emotional things around the lies that are told us in this world, and a different approach to it, and how maybe to the truth behind it. But ultimately, both sides, whether I'm acknowledging the face front lie, or I'm acknowledging what I perceive to be the truth, they're both still affecting my vibration. So I am not, in that example, being responsible for my vibration, because my vibration, my conscious thoughts, words, and actions, and my unconscious thoughts, words, and actions create my reality. A spiritual being is in charge of the creation of their reality. Now, we do co-create, yes, but that co-creation is what am I allowing into my field? If I allow this junk from both sides into my field, then I'm co-creating with everyone else. And if their co-creation, if their intention is to usurp my authority, my spiritual power, if their intention is to create fear, to create distrust, to create worry, doubt, oh my God, the world's going to fall apart, oh my God, the stock market's going to drop tomorrow. If I let these external world events grab hold of my mental and emotional function, then I am losing control of my spiritual helm. It's like being on a ship in the ocean, and the wave comes this way, and the wave comes that way, and the wind comes this way, and the wind comes that way. And if I am not a conscious spiritual person, I just say, okay, I'm just going to let go of the ship's wheel here, and it's going to go, woo, woo, woo. It's going to go back the other way, woo, 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 which is kind of like our mental emotional state getting drawn out of balance. Okay? So if you are not enjoying the emotional mental turmoil that is a part of your life, then it would be extremely wise to grab hold of this rudder, this wheel of your ship, and to realize that you are the captain of it, and that there will be waves, external waves, and there will be internal waves. Our internal waves are our own negative thoughts, words, and actions. Will come around to that. But the external waves are actually more controllable than the internal ones. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? So what's some examples? Well, there's a war in Ukraine. There's a war that's just been launched over in Iraq. There's a threat here and there about China invading Taiwan. There's another threat over here about the people in the Congo being taken advantage of to build batteries for Tesla. And the list goes on. There is an entire slew of fear-mongering and heart-pulling activity that's happening around the world. People are getting trounced on left and right. And it's not that I don't want to make a difference. It's not that I don't want to put an energy towards that. I can if that's what specifically resonates with me, and if it elevates my heart and helps me to feel better by making a difference and donating to this, or positively affecting that cause over there, then those don't become a negative draw on my spirituality. They support me because I'm making a difference. But if I just hear a piece of negative news about the women and children in Afghanistan that are not even allowed to go to school because the men over there want to keep them subservient and stupid, then I could glom onto that mentally, emotionally. But is that assisting my vibration? Is that helping me in my spiritual growth? The wiser choice might be to see it through the spiritual lens. This is a piece of information. I'm witnessing myself not enjoying hearing that the women and children in Afghanistan are being taken advantage of, that they're being held down, that they're being pushed asunder, and that the men are so ignorant that they want to maintain that ideology. I'm going to acknowledge that this is not okay. I'm going to honor my own spiritual vibration and not ignore it, but I'm also not going to let it enter my vibration to create more negativity in me. The spiritual person looks at all of these events from an observational perspective without the attachment, because they know that by attaching to these things, they're actually limiting their spiritual growth. Now, they can make a difference. Observation does not mean ignorance. Observation means recognition of. You can then do something that is of value, like chant love, peace, and harmony, for serving all those over there with that condition as appropriate to bring more love, peace, and harmony to the hearts of those men who live in such a culture where they have that belief system. As long as you say as appropriate, then you're doing something that can help you to stay in your positive spiritual space. The higher level wisdom teachings, and Master Sha has shared this as well, is that the path to the highest enlightenment is forgetting everything. The path to the highest enlightenment is removing everything you've ever learned, de-learning, destructuring, becoming more and more towards emptiness and nothingness. Not learning more, not higher education, not more and more texts and scripts and listening to more and more saints, living saints talk about their wisdom. No, the opposite direction, less and less and less. So for myself, I have been going through a cycle of awareness along this and slowly sloughing off things that would gather my attention and pull me away from a higher. I would like to follow this conspiracy theory, that conspiracy theory, because it was ingratiating to my, I want to know. I want to know how we're being manipulated on this planet. I want to know, about aliens. I want to know about this, whatever it is. Not to say I'm right and they're wrong, because that was not my intention. My intention was knowledge, so that I could have a deeper and higher understanding. And it was, semi-fulfilling, but ultimately it creates discord. I noticed they created discord in my vibration. I'm using myself as an example. What are you allowing into your field? What external from you are you allowing into your vibration that is bringing discord to your field? Do you have a habit of always opening up Facebook and just scrolling for hours and hours, or TikTok scrolling for hours and hours? Do you have a habit of usurping your time to useless information? Have you been frustrated when you just turn all that off and you just sit there, and after 5 minutes you're stir crazy? You don't know what to do, right? The person that looks at life through the spiritual lens sees that stir craziness and says, something is not right here. I should not be stir crazy. I should actually be sitting in deep meditation right now in emptiness, but it's the hardest thing on the planet to achieve. Why? Because in this particular life experience, which is very different than 100 years ago with cowboys and Indians, in this life experience, we are inundated with data and information and visual and audio, every form of inundation of anything that can take control of your five senses has been purposely inundated upon you so that you do not find your way to the light. It is that simple. So the person that is moving on the awakened path starts to acknowledge that, and slowly they wean themselves off of those things. Okay? I don't need that piece of external information anymore. I don't need to listen to CNN anymore. I don't need this about this politician or about that politician anymore. And when you drop it, when you actually drop it, and you don't go back to it, and you just keep ignoring it, try it for 21, 30 days. You'll be amazed at how much lighter you feel. You'll be amazed at how much less your brain flies off into a tangent about that politician, or flies off into a tangent about that war over there or here. The fears that tend to well up in the vast majority of us around money, finances, where I'm going to all of that is dramatically less in its embroilment of negativity, because we already have our own stuff we're dealing with. But when you have these external pressures, war this, war that, finance this, the world's falling apart this, the world's falling apart that, when it's coming at you from every possible angle, it exacerbates your existing stuff. If your existing stuff is, I'm paying bills month to month, and then all of this external exacerbation, I think it'd be very wise if you're looking through a spiritual lens to see that these are not in support of your spiritual journey. They are purposeful in their usurping of your consciousness. So you truly need to be wise and see this for what it is. Okay. Welcome, Anne-Marie. Welcome, Jorge. And welcome, Lori. If anyone else, if I missed your name, thank you for coming and welcome. So we've talked about the external sources of information and how we can look through them through spiritual eyes, through a spiritual lens. Everything that comes into your environment from an external source, meaning outside of your immediate family, your immediate work, your immediate people right in front of you, typically meaning everything from the digital world, everything from gossip, rumor, it's outside of you, okay? Start receiving that information through a new spiritual lens. Is any part of this information of value to me? That should be your first question. Is there any part of this that I truly need to put any attention upon? Because this world is a very simple world from the largest picture. The majority of people, if 51% of those people in this world are focusing on something negative like a war in ABC country, then that war will have a lot more empowerment to happen. And if less are focused on it, then that war will fall apart, because there's just not enough negative power to keep it going. And it's truly that simple. So you need to be the steward of whatever external information is entering your vibration. Is this of any value to me? Yes or no? Well, yeah. I mean, I do care about the children of Tasmania. Okay? So I'm not going to be attached and have emotionality around this, but I'm going to pause and I'm going to send love and light. And I'm going to chant love, peace, harmony as appropriate for the next 10 minutes to serve them. And if it's something that really resonates with you, you put it on your schedule every day. You send them love and light every day. You want to make a difference, that's how you do it. But do not let anything negative continue to remain in your environment, and flush out as quickly as you can whatever you have allowed in there. You will discover that the more you set down some of the digital things that just capture you, whether it's that violent TV show or that ongoing gossip about this or that politician, the moment you let that go, you'll be surprised at how much stuff you didn't pay attention to. I just was one source of what do you call it? Fringe information around the possibilities of what's really happening in the world. This is one site, and I paid attention to it once a day for probably a year, and I just cut it off. It's just, it's just more of the same. And then I looked back at it, I don't know, it's probably 6 months later. And guess what? Nothing changed. It was all the same gossip, all the same what ifs, all the same possibilities, all the same, you know. But because I didn't look at it for 6 months, I didn't have that negative information drilling in my head. There are many things that those that have been running this planet from the dark side have an agenda. They can't keep things negative unless you're a part of that. So be conscientious on that level. Now, the other part of it is our personal events, our personal activities. How do we view those through the lens of spirituality? This then becomes a bit more proactive and a bit simpler in many ways. One of those ways is to first of all quit being the little sailboat on the ocean of your life. Okay? You really have to stop being the little guy in the raft that has the 2 oars and just going in a circle. That's not what you're here for. And you can make that raft bigger, that rowboat bigger, simply by knocking out all the external stuff. Because then all you have to deal with is your stuff. And when all you have to deal with your stuff, automatically your rowboat becomes a sailboat. Now it'll get knocked around by the wind, but at least you have more buoyancy and more probability of survival. The lens of spirituality means, why did this happen? And how do I address this using the wisdom that is available to me? Instead of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with that? What am I going to do? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. That doesn't help anybody. It certainly is like you being a one-armed person in a rowboat. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, let's row in a circle until my next problem comes along, and then I'll say, oh my God, about it. Right? Raise your hand if you're one of those people. Stop it. It's not helping you. You got to put both oars in the water, and you got to make your boat a lot bigger. So remove the external stuff. Why did this happen is not an external blame. Why did this happen? Because Bob did this. Because my boss is a jerk. Because blah, blah, blah. The why is never an external answer. The why is always an internal answer. So when you have a personal event, whether it's a health issue, a financial issue, a relationship issue, the finger always needs to point towards self, free of guilt, but from a perspective of, why did this happen, spiritually speaking? What's going on here so I can resolve it, spiritually speaking? When you get off the boat of everything happens outside of me, it's all their fault, when you step into the responsibility boat and you ask a conscious question, spiritually speaking, why did this happen? And spiritually speaking, how can I transform it? Again, you now make your sailboat into a much, much bigger, safer boat to operate on. You are starting to get control of the oceans around you that have been beating you up. And you get control of them, and you calm the storm around you by not letting external stuff into your environment, by seeing it for what it is, which basically almost all external stuff, if it doesn't feel good to you, there's a really good chance that's on purpose. And you have control over allowing it into your vibration or not. You can walk away from negative people. You can walk away from the stories of your brother-in-law or sister-in-law that was abused this or abused that. You don't have to invest yourself in their stories and their dramas. You do not. You can sit at home and send them love and light and let them gossip to their neighbor. That's fine. You must choose your highest and best vibration. The spiritual being looks at everything through the spiritual lens. What is this trying to do? How is this serving me? Do I need to allow this into my vibration? Is this helping me by allowing this into my vibration? That comes to your personal stuff as well. In order for you to be a competent co-creator, a successful co-creator, then you need to manage your input. And that includes your own personal input, the financial stuff, the relationship stuff, your own personal health stuff. We all have our versions of it, sometimes all three, sometimes one at a time. Sometimes we're just recovering from one, and another one waxes over the head. And we go, oh my God, poor me, la 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 la. We go into our story and our dramas. Or, this is interesting. I'm just finishing up this one, and another one comes to whack me over the head. Looking at it through the spiritual lens says, why is this happening? Not a judgment. And how can I resolve this spiritually? Because when you approach it from that spiritual lens, you will resolve whatever it is much, much faster. Let's say it's money. Okay? Well, yeah, that's all nice and fluffy, Paul, the words you're using, but I still got to pay bills every month, and they still keep coming in, and I'm still not getting ahead, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? How is that working for you to repeat that statement? Instead, why is it, spiritually speaking, that I'm not getting ahead? Why is it, spiritually speaking, that every time I start to get ahead, something else comes? How can I resolve this spiritually? And this is where you're going to start getting a lot more forward movement. I can, since I'm a co-creator, I can decide that I want to receive an extra $200 a month. Well, yeah, negative mind, but where's that going to come from? I only make ABC from this job. That's the negative mind. Okay, spiritual thought. Where is this coming from? Is it serving me? No, it's not serving me. I'm going to set that aside. The co-creator recognizes the law of creation. You request, the source delivers. This is a simple law of creation. Well, yeah, but that's never happened before. I've requested many times and I haven't gotten what I wanted. It's because there's this thing called time. We've talked about this before. You simply need to make your request and not change your mind on it. Allow the source to deliver it. That's your job. But we doubt, we fear, we worry, we allow in the negativity. How does that negativity seep back in? All the external things that are trying to compromise your mind. All the internal stuff that is trying to compromise your mind. How do you have better control of those little negative negs that whittle away at your requested manifestation? You don't give them power. You say, yeah, but God can create anything. God created this earth. God created me. God created all of the good stuff in my life. God can create this request. I don't know how I'm going to get that extra 200, but that's not my job. That's God's job. I'm going to let it go. Let God deliver it. Feels a whole lot better than worry for the next 30 days. So the spiritual approach is working with the consciousness that you have. You have calligraphy, you can trace calligraphy. I'm going to trust that God can deliver. I'm going to do my part, which is tracing to remove any negative thoughts that might come up around this manifestation. And I'm also going to chant to serve others so I can generate a little more good virtue, and that makes me feel good. I like the kids in Tasmania. I'm going to chant for them. Okay. Why is this entering my vibration? Is it serving me? What can I do spiritually to resolve it? If you just bring that to the table on a daily basis, you will find yourself navigating that ocean with far greater strength and a far bigger boat than a little rowboat where you're rowing with one arm in a circle going, woe is me, the earth is falling, everything is going against me, I have no control. That's all just a story. So co-create with confidence, co-create through the lens of spirituality that you are already aware of but are not applying. I promise you there's not a single thing I've said here today that is truly new information. I am just boxing it in such a way where you can use what you already know and apply it, simplify it down. So we all fall in and out of that box of simplicity. We all get caught up in a various event or experience. But as soon as you catch yourself getting stuck in that event or experience, and as soon as you recognize the negativity that starts to bring you down that negative path you're not going to enjoy, stop. What is the purpose of me glomming onto this negativity? Is it serving me? No. How do I transform this spiritually? And if you just continue to repeat that questioning, in essence what you're doing is you're pulling yourself out of the victim, the person that's wallowing in the whirlpool of unpleasantness, and you're pulling yourself out of it, and you're looking down on it. You're no longer in that whirlpool. You're going, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that happened. Let's go ahead and address this from this higher consciousness and spiritual level. So the title of this was How to Address Your Physical World and the World Events Outside of You from a Spiritual Lens. And this is a large overview of that. Hopefully it makes sense to you. You know, I've said before, this particular life, not easy for any of us. We're all getting our tail kicked out there. Virtually every person I've talked to, including myself, we have our various struggles. Sometimes it's relationship, sometimes it's family, sometimes it's health, sometimes it's finances, sometimes it's all the above. Trust me, I can tell you, you're not alone, you're not special. We're all going through our own version of it. What matters most is how much light do we bring to the table. If you're here listening to this, you are already an awakened spiritual being. But being awakened and applying the wisdom that you've learned by being awakened are two different things. I'm constantly falling off my horse and getting back on and applying the things that I teach you. I fall off, I get back on. I constantly apply. I teach this to others, I help them, and then I have to deal with it in my own life. But it is the path to the emptiness that we need to be at. In order to become that, maybe you have no desire to be an enlightened being. Maybe you just want to be a happy being. Guess what? It still happens the same way. You have to slough off everything that is trying to distract you from peace and calm. So you know what is detracting from you. You know what is taking away from you. Address it with a spiritual lens. How is this helping me? Is there any value in holding on to this? Is there any value in coming to it every day, or every week? And how can I resolve it spiritually? We have already been taught the tools and techniques. We don't need to replicate those again and again. Okay? And in between all that and tying it all together, you are right in the middle there as the co-creator. If you look around your life and you're enjoying it, congratulations. You co-created exactly what you're experiencing, and I hope that you co-created a wonderful set of experiences. If you're not enjoying it, then congratulations. You now have an opportunity to identify what are you allowing your vibration from the outside and in your own little world that is feeding the negative meter on the machine, and how can you disconnect that and resolve that using the tools and techniques that are made available to you. The natural side effect is the co-creation of more and more positive things. Natural side effect is the health getting a little better, the finances adjusting a little bit, relationships shifting. That will naturally occur, and accordingly the waves that have been knocking you around will become significantly less, because you're viewing things through the lens of a spiritual awakened person and operating accordingly. Okay? So I hope this wisdom benefits all of you today, and I will be back next week with a subject that might best serve you next week. So thank you, everyone. Talk to you very soon. Until then, have an awesome day, everybody. Bye-bye.